Jason Mercier folds. Joe Cassidy, ace-jack.
Joe could re-raise this hand since he knows Barry's range is wide.
He calls. Danny folds.
Barry's range is a little narrower from first position, hence just the call.
Queen 10 suited for the loose cannon.
There's been a raise and a call, but Nadia's getting 4-1 on her money.
She calls. Bonomo folds.
She is out of position, though, going into this flop.
10 king king.
Barry's flop trip kings. It's a monster.
Nadia first to act. She comes out firing. 3,100.
Nadia's now got Barry's full attention, even though it doesn't look like it. Looks like Nadia's trying to protect her hand and maybe stop a bad turn card from coming out. But in doing so, she's bet into the raiser, and she's made a donk bet, which does leave her susceptible to being raised.
Barry just calls.
Barry's probably calling because he wants Joe Cassidy to stick around.
However, Cassidy folds his gut shot straight draw.
Barry's got Nadia in complete jail right now.
The turn, queen of spades.
Joe Cassidy would have made it straight. That's why I always turn away after I fold. Nadia's drunk dead at this point.
She checks on over to Barry, who fires 6,000.
Now, Nadia should know that if Barry has a king, she cannot improve.
That's not stopping her. She calls.
Obviously not putting Barry on a king.
Deuce of clubs on the river. Nadia checks.
Barry's trying to think of a number here. They should call this kind of decision giving someone your phone number because you definitely want to get called.
He bets 15,000.
Barry's bet on the turn set him up to make this bet on the river. Nadia's trying to figure out if this could be a bluff. She's invested almost 15,000 already in this pot. Her read on the flop was that Barry didn't have a king. She doesn't want to be outplayed. Let's see if she figures it out that she's beat.
Nadia takes that phone number and throws it in the trash.
Good fold.
Greenstein picks up a nice sized pot.
Can you tell me at the end what you had?
Can I guess what you had? And you'll tell me now?
I thought you had 10 jack.
You can.
I think you had queen jack.
I think queen 10 or queen jack. Queen 10.
Queen 10.
Cassidy seems unimpressed with himself.
Lucky me. I finally won something.
Why aren't you guys guessing what he had?
Because we know what he had.
Yeah, we know what he had.
I had the joint. They already know that.
You can find the chapter on flopping the joint in Barry's book.
Danny Alai gets us started by folding. So does Nadia. Bonomo folds. Barry raises to 1,500. King, queen offsuit for Jason Mercier. Small blind. Calls.
Not a hand he'll often fold to Barry with a button raise.
Joe Cassidy in the big blind, 10-7 suited. He calls as well.
These guys both know Barry's likely to raise with any two cards on the button.
9-7-7.
Now it's Cassidy's turn to flop trips.
Mercier checks. Cassidy slow playing.
They both check to Barry continuation bet Greenstein.
And living up to his nickname by betting 2,500.
Now Barry does have a gut shot, so it's not a complete bluff.
Mercier calls.
Cassidy must be loving all the money going into this pot. Right now he's taking a look at that board, trying to determine if he needs to charge his opponents to draw.
Cassidy raises to 8,500.
8,500?
Barry folds.
I almost just mucked.
And a disgruntled Mercier folds as well.
I'm sure Joe appreciates the fact that Jason didn't muck on the flop. It was an extra 2,500 bucks for him.
Well, Cassidy is happy about winning something other than the guessing game. Will this pot point Joe in the right direction?
I'm Joe Cassidy. Well, anytime there's an inexperienced player at the table, that's always appealing to a professional player, and I think that's the idea behind the loose cannon. Also, having them not have anything at risk allows them to make decisions more haphazardly, and then the situations towards the end of the game where the loose cannon is not going to have anything if they end up with 40,000 puts them in kind of a unique position that you wouldn't see in a normal game to need to gamble. So if you know those things, you can kind of take advantage of that.
Unfortunately for Joe, earlier in the week, Nadia took advantage of him. Maybe seemed a little flirty, but at the end of that date, Nadia left him with the check.
Action is folded around to Jason Mercier with pocket rockets. Raises to 1,400. Cassidy folds. King-Queen offsuit for Danny Alai.
Now, even though King-Queen can be easily dominated, it is well ahead of Jason's cutoff raising range.
Danny calls. Nadia ace-6 folds.
Jason's been so aggressive this game, it's difficult to give him credit for a hand as good as aces.
The flop, 9-5 king, 2 diamonds.
Right in the window, Danny flops top pair.
And checks.
This could get brutal for Danny.
Mercier bets 2,100.
Danny probably likes his hand right now. Top pair, second kicker is pretty strong.
And Danny calls.
Danny just calls with top pair because he wants Jason to bet into him again on the turn. At least that's what he thinks he wants.
4 of clubs on the turn.
It's a great card for Jason.
Danny checks.
It doesn't complete any draws, so he knows Danny's hand isn't likely to have improved. Danny called on the flop, so he wants to try to figure out how much Danny will call again. He wants to try to get value from top or middle pair, and he wants a draw to have to pay to see the river.
The bet this time is 5,700.
5,700.
Danny's been led into twice. Still has top pair.
Danny calls.
Danny's in a really tough spot. Very difficult to lay down top pair, especially against Jason.
The river, 10 of clubs.
The river completes both flush and straight draws.
Danny checks.
It's going to make it tough for Jason to get max value out of this hand. If he bets and gets raised, one pair is basically only good as a bluff catcher.
Jason makes it 14,300 to go.
Jason's still pretty convinced his hand's good enough to value bet. The fact that Danny hasn't folded yet tells me this is a pretty nice value bet from Jason. It's going to be hard for Danny to not pay Jason off because of his image and reputation. Jason's the kind of player who would fire a 20-barrel bluff if he could, so a fair percentage of the time Danny makes his call, he's going to be right. Just not this time.
What? Oh, what do you have? Could be that. 3 9s? Maybe. Could be that.
Danny calls and sees the bad news.
Very well played hand by Jason all around. He got value on every street. Made it almost impossible for Danny to fold, and a perfect size value bet on the river.
And with that, Jason is back on the plus side. So too is our loose cannon, Nadia Magnus, who continues to be in the black.
It's Nadia's dream to be a pro, so she's probably living the dream right now, but we're playing no limit hold'em after the flop, and one hand can turn a dream into an instant nightmare.
On this hand, Barry Greenstein, 7-6 of spades, raised to 1,500. Mercier folds. Joe Cassidy, ace tray suited.
Once again, we know Barry's raising range is pretty wide.
Joe calls, Danny folds. Another pocket pair for the loose cannon.
Once again, Nadia is facing a raise with a pocket pair. We've yet to see her back down from her big hands. Doesn't look like she's starting now.
Nope, she comes over the top to 7,000. Bonomo folds.
Re-raising with 10s is a decent play, but you have to be careful doing it out of position to really good players. Also, by re-raising, you're building a huge pot. If and when you're faced with a bet, it's going to be a big one, and in all likelihood, you're not going to like the flop.
Barry does call. And Joe folds.
Nadia's ahead and has the lead, but Barry has position.
The flop. Queen deuce tray, 2 hearts.
Luckily for Nadia, this is a pretty decent flop for her, and Barry missed by a country mile.
Nadia fires 9,500.
See, there's that big bet I was talking about.
And that gets Barry Greenstein to fold.
Nadia raised, kept the lead, didn't back down, even though there was an overcard. I'd say pretty well played.